Ladies and gentlemen, nerds and neckbeards.
Nerds and neckbeards.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of Westeros. Wheneverly. Hey, Dave.
Hey, Tana.
How are you?
I'm good. It's been a long time.
It's been a minute. But we're back.
We're back.
And it's almost Christmas.
It is, or almost Hanukkah, as some would say.
That's right.
Hanukkah.
Yeah. And I thought, what's a good way for us to get back into the podcasting spirit of things?
Drinking and charcuteries.
Amen, brother. All men must drink.
All men must drink.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And what are we having tonight?
Well, this is a wild goose chase.
That's right. It's the wild goose chase.
And it is a little bit of Grey Goose.
Okay, yeah.
A little bit of
hence
blue,
the goose.
Yeah, well, right. A little bit of Blue Curacao.
Yeah, no one is surprised to hear that.
Nope. I mean, let's be honest. This wouldn't be a Westeros Wheneverly podcast if we didn't have Blue Curacao.
We have less of the gallon, though, because this is a hefty pour of Blue Curacao.
That I also got all over the sink.
Yeah, there was a bit of a splash. We might be out of drinking shape, Dave. We might be. It could be fair to say.
I blame myself.
Yeah, well, yeah. And then topping it all off, we have a cranberry, I want to say grape juice.
Cranberry grape juice.
Yeah.
And if you really want the authentic Westeros Wheneverly taste,
yes,
and you want to make this drink,
which everyone at home wants.
Yeah, of course, right. You want to be as true to the original as possible. You have to first chill some wild turkey.
That's right. Hence the wild
in the shaker.
That's right.
Pour it out and
do a shot for luck.
Right.
Ice cold.
That's right. And then whatever's left in the shaker gets added to your drink.
That's right. And Dave and I discovered why they call it wild turkey.
Yeah.
Because after you shoot an entire shot of it, you go, 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 go.
Why did I do that?
So I thought that for today's episode, I had grand plans. And I thought that we would talk about, get back into the fun, what is so compelling about this world. We don't have any new material. We don't have any, new things. Although George did just give a talk in Guadalajara. And it's like an hour-long video on YouTube that I watched today. He answered a lot of questions. It was very nice, but...
No new information, though?
Not a lot. He did dangle a carrot. His wife has a favorite character. And he runs the risk of her divorcing him if he kills off that character. But of course, he wouldn't name the character. My immediate thought was Brian, but
I think it's Arya.
It's going to have to be somebody from the very beginning, right?
I think most people love Arya.
Yeah.
I think, there's a lot of Kit Harington, Jon Snow.
Yeah, he's already killed him once. I mean, how many times can you kill that guy?
That's right. There's always, there's a lot of Jon Snow love, and there's a lot of Daenerys love. Yeah. And there's a lot of Tyrion love. But I think more so than anything else, there's a shitload of Arya.
Yeah, she's not even on the chopping block for me. Although he did say that he considers the 7 books as one story. And so the next 2 books are going to be called The Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring. And we are at the part, if it's one story, we are at the part where things get worse before they get better.
That's right.
Someone had mentioned the Forsaken chapter. And he's like, yeah, well, there's a lot of dark things that are going to happen. That's not the worst of it. And so, awesome.
Oh, you mean like being chained in a sea boat and basically almost dying?
Rotting. It's just...
But... Come on, out of that, we saw a fucking ridiculous dragon scale Valyrian steel suit of armor. Ugh. Holy motherfuck.
So I went back and I was reading, actually part of my research, I have this big idea that I want our next big episode to be about the Citadel.
Yes.
So we've
been talking about this on Twitter for a while.
I want it to, I have lists of maesters and books. I have drawn a map of what in the final chapter of Feast for Crows, Sam goes walking. It's when he meets Alaras and sees Marwyn. And I'm just going to hand you my 2 pages of doodle notes that I took. So I'm listening to it, and I'm at the audiobook, and then I'm making these notes and drawing sort of Sam's path. There's the Seneschal's court, but before that, you walk through the gates to the Citadel, and there are giant green marble sphinxes in the shape of a woman on one side and a man on the other. Those are the gates to the Citadel. And then right through there, you have the scribe's court, where a bunch of the acolytes are just like waiting around in stalls to write people's wills or to sort out legal matters or whatever. There's a map maker. Sam glances at one of the maps so he knows which way to get to the Seneschal's court. There's all this really great detail about what it looks like. You've got the honey wine, the river, sort of snaking through the whole place, through Old Town. It talks about the cobblestones. It talks about the Isle of Ravens, which is the oldest place in all of Old Town that used to be, according to Alaras, a pirate's hangout. And so all of this stuff is
Sounds
going
like
into
my kind of place.
Yeah, and there's a giant, almost dead, ancient, beginning of the world weirwood tree on this Isle of Ravens, right? And so this is where Sam goes. This is where the ravens for the Citadel are kept, right? So Walgrave, the guy with the Alzheimer's, lives out there, right?
However,
yeah. So, but
this episode is not about the Citadel.
Best intentions. I got so derailed. So I was like, well, nobody wants a big history lesson, right? First, I'm not sure that I can like throw lists of maesters and books and like maps of the Citadel at people and keep the interest. So maybe we'll just have a fun episode talking about conspiracy theories, talking about, things that people think about the world. So that was my second thing that also got derailed. Spoiler.
So that's not what this episode's about then either. What are we talking about tonight, Tana?
So what I would like us to talk about is conspiracy theories, if there are any sort of tinfoil hat. The image that I put up is of you and me with tinfoil hats on. It's an awesome image. Yeah, but you can't really tell that they're tinfoil hats, but they are. And I figured we'd talk about, wild goose chases. Yeah. So in looking into some of those, I found, of course, something else totally compelling about
that derailed the shit out of
you. It totally took. I couldn't put it down. And so that's what we're going to end up talking about today. And it is.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh wait, should we drum roll?
Yes.
Oh, wow, Jesus.
The origin of dragons.
Dragons.
All men must drink.
All men must drink.
So I want to present my idea of where they came from because it totally blindsided me, right? Like I wanted just a light and fun episode, and I think we can have a light and fun discussion about it, but I was totally blind. I didn't expect this. And I think I accidentally stumbled upon the origin of dragons. Okay?
That's like the best ideas. You never expect them to come when you're shitting on the toilet, but that's when they come. You're just sitting there, you're dropping the kids off at the pool, and all of a sudden you're like,
Constitution.
I just thought up with Twitter, and now he's worth quadruple $1 billion.
Did the maker of Twitter think of it on the toilet?
I don't know, but I'm sure he did. I mean, come on. Let's let people say things, but only 140 characters.
Only in the time it takes you to
Only the time it takes you to poop. That's how long I want people to.
So if you have multiple tweets in a row, maybe you're just.
Yeah.
I understand.
Could be clogged up or something.
I'm going to look at your Twitter feed a little bit differently these days.
From now on, I will always think of Twitter as poop thoughts.
This is my theory that I want you to put your scrutinous eye on.
Okay.
See if you can pop holes in it. The theory is this. The blood mages of Old Valyria used ancient blood magic and secrets that they learned through torture to bind certain Valyrian houses, certain Valyrian bloodlines and families to hybrid wyvern Valyrian creatures that could then be both controlled by and connected to that Valyrian house. So that's the theory. I'm going to throw a bunch of evidence at you from the World Book about.
So you're saying that it's blood magic that old Valyria bound wyvern creatures, so some not dragons.
Not dragons.
There's a big difference here.
Yep. To create dragons.
One have 4 legs.
So,
one have 2 legs.
In the interest of proving this, I want to present...
The show, by the way, shows you wyverns, not dragons.
Which is... I had remembered our conversation about the difference between wyverns and dragons, and that you brought that to my attention. I didn't previously know that.
Yeah, I'm a nerd.
And in Septon Barth's Dragons, Worms, and Wyverns, he speculated that the blood mages of Valyria used wyvern stock to create dragons. Though blood mages were alleged to have experimented mightily with their unnatural arts, this claim is considered far-fetched by most maesters, among them Maester Vanyan's Against the Unnatural, which contains certain proofs of dragons having existed in Westeros even in the earliest days, before Valyria rose to be a power. So this is one of the inserts in the World Book. It's on, what page are you, 285-ish, I think? And so it's just sort of like an insert. I've read it 100 times. I never thought anything of it until, and this is what put me on the scent. This is the passage that got me thinking in this way. World Book 285, in a chapter on Sothorios, which is one of the Basilisk Isles, and it's very terrible. Okay. So it says this, quote, most terrible of all, and they're talking about creatures that live here. Most terrible of all are the great wyverns, those tyrants of the southern skies, with their great leathery wings, cruel beaks, and insatiable hunger. Close kin to dragons, wyverns cannot breathe fire, but they exceed their cousins in ferocity and are a match for them in all other respects, save for size. This is saying the only difference between wyverns and dragons is the ability to breathe fire.
And they're smaller.
Yeah, they just says, so it says all other respects save size, and then it gives us 4 examples. So I'll read you the examples of wyverns that are given in the World Book. Put this under your critical eye. Brindled wyverns, jade and white scales, 30 feet long. Swamp wyverns, 30 or more feet long, so really big, but they're long and sluggish, and they don't usually leave the swamp, and they're just like fat swamp guys. Yep.
They're slugs.
There's small ones called brown bellies that are monkey-sized and hunt in packs of 100 or more. So monkey-sized to 30 feet plus. And then the last one they end on is this, the shadow wing, a nocturnal monster whose black scales and wings make him all but invisible until he descends out of the darkness to tear apart his prey. What does that sound like to you?
Drogon.
Right? And so nowhere in there does it say anything about, they say that they're exceeded by their cousins in ferocity and are a match for them in all other respects save for size. Great leathery wings, cruel beaks, insatiable hunger, but they can't breathe fire. Well, if breathing fire is the only defining characteristic between a wyvern and a dragon, then wyverns made dragons.
Well, I don't know how you can say that specifically.
So what I want to say is,
that's like saying the only difference between a cat and a dog is that one is stupid.
I think you're showing bias for your cat.
Therefore,
no,
dogs made cats.
So we'll move on to more proofs. Okay, so it's not a solid argument yet.
So I crackpotted your crackpot theory already.
But this is the basis so far. Then we move on, so there's wild cousins to the dragons that can't breathe fire, and that also, I would say, have no blood bond to humans. We know that dragons not only can breathe fire, but they're bonded to their human, right? Yeah. They can be controlled by certain humans.
Do we have any proof that wyverns can't be warged or something?
We do have some. I don't know if it's proof. This is what I want to present. So, one, there are certain proofs that the fossil record contains, described in the World Book, that says that dragons used to be spread across the world. If what Maester Yandel, the writer of the World Book, is suggesting is that dragons used to be everywhere, my contention, which we haven't been able to disprove yet, is that what is the difference, the fossilized bone difference between a wyvern and a dragon? You can't tell. If it's just wings and a beak and a certain size, then it could have been a wyvern. What Yandel is calling a dragon could have just been wyverns, wild wyverns everywhere. I'm contesting that blood magic and torture made a dragon. So, let's see. The Basilisk Isles, on page 283 of the World Book, on the Isle of Tears, it says the following. It's got steep valleys, black bogs, flint hills, broken ruins of cities. It was founded by Old Gis, conquered by young Valyria, and by any name it is an evil place. Quote, in the dungeons of Gorgogos, torturers...
Gorgogos?
Gorgosos.
Gorgogos? What?
Gorgossos.
George Gorgeous. George Gorgeous.
On the Isle of George Gorgeous.
Yes!
No.
No, it's George Gorgeous.
On the Isle of George Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Torturers
Come on,
devised...
his name is George R.R. Martin. He's telling the world that he's gorgeous.
This is where I think the blood magic happened.
Where trying to name
George Gorgeous. Yes, on George Gorgeous. Damn it. Let's see. In the dungeons of Gorgogos. George Gorgeous.
George Gorgeous.
This is tough, man. This is
a good one.
All men must drink.
All right.
We're out of shape here. All right, focus.
We're drunk already. Fuck, okay.
Oh, man. All right. So what I'm going to do is, I think wyverns and dragons are the same thing. I think when Yandel calls them the dragons, he really means wyverns. Wild creatures.
Wild
beasts.
He found bones of leather and wings and scales.
And then I think what happened, which I'm going to use 2 passages to prove. Okay. One about wild wyverns from Ashai, and one about blood magic and sorcerers and torture. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the torture. Okay? In the dungeons of Gorgeous George, torturers devised new torments. In the flesh pits, blood sorcery of the darkest sort was practiced, as beasts were mated to slave women to bring forth twisted, half-human children. That's on page 283. I want you guys to go check this stuff out and see what you think yourself.
Read that again.
In the dungeons, torturers devised new torments. In the flesh pits, blood sorcery of the darkest sort was practiced, as beasts were mated to slave women to bring forth twisted, half-human children.
So bestiality.
Yep.
And what else does that kind of sound like?
It's blood sorcery. It's blood magic.
Well, yeah, but I mean, think of Mad King Ares.
Yeah.
Ares? Yeah, Mad King Ares, who had a bunch of kids that he raped and came out with tails
half monsters,
and
right?
half monsters and...
Exactly. What about Dany? She gave birth to that misshapen, scaly, like half dragon, aborted fetus thing in the tent.
And there was definitely blood magic there.
Yeah.
I mean,
and there were
the witch
scales,
comes right in and says,
so,
a life for a life, whatever.
So I'm trying to prove that something in Dany's blood ancient lineage, her family's lineage, was the source of why she's able to have that sort of crazy half dragon thing. Okay. So it says beasts. We several times in the World Book they call dragons beasts. Yeah. The Rise of Valyria, early in the book on page 13, it says this: sheltered there, amidst the great volcanic mountains known as the 14 Flames, were the Valyrians, who learned to tame dragons and made them the most fearsome weapon of war that the world ever saw. The tales the Valyrians told of themselves claimed that they were descended from dragons and were kin to the ones that they now controlled. Maester Yandel writes this, but perhaps there's an error in his translation, a bias, an oversight. The blood of the dragon can mean kin of the dragons that they now controlled. So it indicates to me that there's some shared bloodline. So if blood mages were bonding wyverns, wild wyverns, to human women through fire magic to create a new breed, perhaps this is like the fire and blood. Those are Valyrian sorceries, right? Yeah. Fire and blood. And the difference between a wyvern and a dragon is that they can breathe fire and that they're bonded to certain humans. That's why the purity of the blood has to happen. So I'm wondering if a dragon is some beast birthed from someone ancient in Daenerys' house line. Okay. You had all these different houses in old Valyria, and the Targaryen house wasn't one of the major ones. They thought that, I know his name wasn't Aerion, the great-grandfather who went to Dragonstone 12 years before the Doom came, the great houses thought he was a coward and he wasn't going to play along anymore. And so he took his few dragons and left. And they thought that was cowardice. So what if this blood magic only happened for some of the families, and that's why, like, some Valyrian descendants can fly dragons and some can't. Like, you have two other houses. House Hightower probably has some Valyrian blood because Jorah's ex-wife, what's her dick?
What's her dick?
Lynessa.
Yeah.
Lynessa Hightower looked a lot like Daenerys, he said.
Yeah, she's definitely got a dick.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the Valyrians also, House Velaryon, the sea snake.
So how does that, but okay, so what you're saying to me, Tana, is that these dragons are birthed.
Yeah,
right?
I think somewhere in the history, in the dark flesh pit dungeons, blood mages mated women to wyverns, and the women birthed the first dragons, like physically, like a shadow baby, or maybe laid an egg, like, but they, through these two, and that's why we have the matriarchal, dragon double X hatchers. I think it could all work out.
But where do the eggs come from?
I don't know, man. It's very, the details are hazy.
If dragons are birthed and, come out of
maybe just the first one. Maybe just the first, like, vile torture and sorcery is, like, maybe that making of a new species, let's say.
Okay, comes out of a vagina.
Yeah, but, like, or, and like, the blood magic between a woman from this house and this wyvern, and the blood magic, and so you get this creature that is bonded by blood to this particular house that is controlled by them, that also now breathes fire, since that seems to be the difference.
So then how did all these other houses get, you think they did this more than once?
I have some more quotes.
So does that mean that only a dragon egg from that certain line, that, let's call it a bloodline, right, could be hatched by that house?
Good point.
So does that mean that maybe there's a Hightower bloodline of dragon eggs or something?
I would suggest, I think that Hightower is not one of the superpower families. I think if House Hightower, one of the things I'm researching for the Citadel is, spoiler, whether or not House Hightower were exiles from Valyria.
Okay.
And there's some historical evidence that certain religions, certain people, there are certain outposts. So I want to try to build the case that House Hightower were exiles. And in that case, they would be forgotten. They wouldn't be included. They wouldn't be considered high priority. And you have other houses, noble houses or almost noble houses like House Velaryon, which might have had some sort of ancient connection, blood magic to dragons. The other thing I wanted to say is when the Doom came, it destroyed in a single day all Valyrians that were in Old Valyria and all their dragons. The only dragons that we know of that survived were on Dragonstone, and they were controlled by Targaryens. So any eggs...
that would explain maybe that all the eggs would be Targaryen bloodline eggs.
Yes. And so... But I want you to still think critically, because I don't know for sure, but this is the scent that I got on. Okay. Here's another bit from page 13 in the World Book. My question was, is there any other evidence of blood magic or hybrid blood bonding? Because this is like flimsy. This is very little to go on. In such fragments of Barth's unnatural history as remain, the Septon appears to have considered various legends examining the origins of dragons and how they came to be controlled by the Valyrians. The Valyrians themselves claimed that the dragons sprang forth as children of the 14 flames. And then it says some other things, but then in Ashai, the tales are many and confused, but certain texts, all impossibly ancient, claim that dragons first came from the shadow, a place where all our learning fails us. These Ashai histories say that a people so ancient they had no name first tamed dragons in the shadow and brought them to Valyria, teaching the Valyrians their arts before departing from the annals. Yet, if men in the shadow had tamed dragons first, why did they not conquer as the Valyrians did? It seems likelier that the Valyrians' tale is the truest. I think that where they say dragons, they mean wyverns. I think dragons are this new species, this hybrid human fire-breathing wyvern species. So what Yandel is saying, the Ashai histories say a people so ancient they had no name first tamed dragons.
You think they meant wyverns.
And they bring tamed wyverns to Valyria.
And that's where the blood magic people lock them in dungeons and force them to have sex with women.
Yeah.
And
torture
they
blood
torture
magic.
And they somehow create...
mate beasts together to make this powerful weapon of war.
To make dragons.
So the other thing, the Valyrians themselves claim that dragons sprang forth as the children of the 14 flames. While this could be part of the two moons idea, that the moon explodes and it rains down and that's the children and the birthing and the egg, it could also be that a volcano erupts from the inside out, right? From the ground up. And so if they are experimenting in dungeons and in pits, in flesh pits and in deep dungeons and whatever, in fiery hearts of volcanoes, then the children, the Valyrians themselves claimed that dragons sprang forth as the children of the 14 flames. So we know that blood mages were experimenting in dungeons and flesh pits.
Yeah, to create some half-human creatures.
And where they mated to slave women to bring forth twisted half-human children, right? So we're getting the scent here. Now, it continues. But if there were dragons, again, use your mind and see if wyvern and dragon are interchangeable with these things that Yandel is telling us. But if there were dragons in Westeros once, long before the Targaryens came, as our own legends and histories tell us. If dragons did first spring from the 14 flames, they must have been spread across much of the known world before they were tamed. And in fact, there's evidence of this, as dragon bones have been found as far north as Ib, and even in the jungles of Sithorios. Those were the 4 species that we talked about earlier. But the Valyrians harnessed and subjugated them as no one else could. If Maester Yandel is using a fossil record, then he can't possibly know that they were dragons and not wyverns, if the only difference is they're controlled by humans and breathe fire. Nothing in the fossil record would tell you if it's a dragon or if it's a wyvern, right? Let's keep going.
Yeah, and I guess they probably don't have carbon dating technology back then.
I mean, they have blood magic to make dragons,
fair enough. They have blood... No carbon dating, but we do have blood magic.
Let's see.
Do you want to know how old that thing is? Well, fuck it. So we'll kill your firstborn and make him immortal.
George also said not to trust the World Book. If it tells you things, don't take everything in the World Book at face value. He just said this yesterday in Guadalajara.
Well, I mean...
Because it's written by Maester Yandel.
I was going to say, it makes sense because... the World Book is not a history lore. It is a book written by a maester.
With a definite slant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that maybe Maester Yandel, who doesn't have a horse in this race, could really give a shit if it's a dragon or a wyvern. But I think that there is a breadcrumb trail here that goes from the very beginning of the World Book to the end of the World Book.
I think it's very plausible, the fact that wyverns could be mistaken for dragons.
Also, we know that Valyrians have a history of doing this sort of blood magic and sorcery with common objects because of Valyrian steel swords and armor. They use blood magic, known only to them, to fold the steel swords again and again and again and imbue them with, whatever magic spells they put in there. And so you've got steel swords and fire magic and blood magic to make something more powerful and more deadly. So they had people on this.
They had some skills.
Yep. This was something they valued. So they were doing some shit. It seems possible to me that, we've got that the confused text, quote unquote, from Ashai could just as easily be just describing the transportation of tamed wyverns. So they bring the wyvern stock over, and then you get these sadistic blood mages to do whatever they're doing inside the volcano, and they birth forth children, and the Targaryens, or rather the Valyrians, think that they are children of the dragon. It would also then, if the origin is a human woman, a Valyrian human woman that gives birth to this dragon, that could be further proof that the double X dragon hatcher would be a woman, right? Like the vessel to bring dragons into the world to create this hybrid species is a woman. And that's why we've got males as dragon riders, women we think as dragon hatchers. The only time, so if you look back when the Targaryen dragons hatched, many of them hatched because Queen Rhaenyra was around, and also Queen Rhaella, or almost Queen Rhaella was around. And so we think that those were superpowered X-dragons, and that's when the flush of Targaryen dragons were hatching all over the place. It's where these two women were closely in contact with the eggs to hatch them, much like we saw Dany do in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and I mean, watching Game of Thrones and reading it, you think, of course, they're the children of fire. I mean, just look at how Dany birthed them to begin with. She took these eggs into fire. Yeah, and out popped her unscathed.
Like she felt them, and they were cold to Jorah, and she felt them alive and beating, and she could feel heat coming off them when no one else could. So there's definitely a connection.
Yeah,
and
I think no one is debating that there's a connection between, and I think the Dragon X Gene episode that we did, and the one that I forget his name.
Yeah, fucking meets Lightbringer.
What's his dick?
What's his dick? Satan means Lightbringer. Lucifer means Lightbringer.
Is he the guy who did?
He's the one that came up with the 2 moons. Oh no, Preston something.
Yeah, Preston Jacobs.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, Preston Jacobs. I mean, I definitely think his theory is like spot on.
Yeah. I really like the 2 egg in the sky theory, and it explains the difference in the 2 moons and Karth and all that stuff was there from the beginning. So George is very good at hiding this shit.
So then, before all that, we have what you're proposing is that we have these crazy, weird blood magic orgies happening in pits, theoretically, not necessarily orgies, maybe more bestiality, torture. It's
going to be torture, blood mages, and flesh pits. The word George used was flesh pits, so not a positive experience for those involved. But the end result was possibly the emergence of dragons, a hybrid human reptile or wyvern species.
Okay,
and it would also explain. So I have only a couple more proofs to suggest to try to firm up my case here.
Okay.
We covered the women and female descendants could continue to birth these hybrids, or that could explain the Dany thing. But wait, there's more. World Book, page 13. The great beauty of the Valyrians. Yeah, because it's like, this was the thing, man. I was all through this book. I'm looking for stuff on the Citadel, and instead, I got hot on this trail. Let's see. The great beauty of the Valyrians, with their hair of palest silver or gold, and eyes in shades of purple not found amongst any other peoples of the world, is well known, and often held up as proof that the Valyrians are not entirely of the same blood as other men. So it isn't just that the Valyrians are humans and, birthed dragons. That street goes 2 ways. They are part wyvern, or they are, and we often think of, the deity, the godhead, Caesar as king, as God, as a man god on earth. Mm-hmm. So I totally have read this sentence a million times, but it never stuck with me as it did last night or whenever day I was doing this. The Valyrians are not entirely of the same blood as other men. Again, we have this, he's hammering these tiny little nails of proof about, this is a breadcrumb. Right, because they're literally bred with wyverns. And then it talks more about breeding. Yet there are maesters who point out that by careful breeding of animals, one can achieve a desirable result, and that populations in isolation can often show remarkable variations from what might be regarded as common. So this could also just be, they could just be beautiful
Inbred
people, that have these certain qualities that only exist on, in Valyrian, like whatever. That could totally be a thing.
Yeah.
But I also think that there's a cleverness about the way he's writing it and the way he's framing these things. Then again, I could just be scratching away at nothing. let's see. Blood not entirely the same as other men.
I like that.
Yeah, so
I really do.
cool, right? I've never heard anybody talk about this.
Yeah, you're blowing my mind yet again.
So I was just like, and I don't follow things, like I don't seek out theories, and I was actually getting a little bummed out because I don't have any Stump Dave, and I was like, oh, I don't want to have to go read a bunch of crackpot theories about how Roose Bolton is a vampire or something, like.
Wait, Roose Bolton is a vampire?
That's one of the crackpots, Dave. That's one of the wild goose chases. All men must drink.
All men must drink.
Yeah, because, he flays men. So maybe he steals their skin. He likes being leeched. I don't know,
man. Comes
out
during the day.
I know. It doesn't smell like garlic. Like, I don't know what the theory is.
He married a fat Waldo.
I mean, are they especially, what is the word? Like, he did that, conscious of how much she would cost. Like, weight in gold. Like, that was a very, what is the word that I'm looking for?
Literal?
No, it's very like
clever,
financially clever. There's a word for that though. I don't know what it is. It's not Jewish. I mean, it could be Jewish, but that's not the word that I'm looking for.
I can say that I'm Jewish. Just to clarify for all you first-time listeners out there.
First-time listeners.
God, he's an anti-Semite. No,
David. So this is my conclusion. If dragons are, as I'm suggesting, a hybrid combination of tamed wyverns and old Valyrians, bred together to make a third species, a dragon/dragon rider class of thing, it would stand to reason that the world the Maesters are building has no place for magic or dragons, since it is through magic, fire magic and blood magic, along with some sadistic ancient experimentation, that dragon riders were first created. What was once created could in theory be created again. Therefore, isn't it in the best interest of the world the Maesters are building to not have any dragons, dragon riders, or ancient Valyrian bloodlines or scrolls left in the world? I think this could be some compelling evidence of why Septon Barth's writings were burned. It's why knowledge of dragons and dragon riders have been locked away, and it's the great secret that Dany Targaryen is carrying in her blood, which is literally, I'm suggesting, the blood of the dragon.
So, the secret basically is that these things can be made.
Yeah.
And if they can be made and bonded, that means that another house or being or creature potentially could make one and bond it and contest the Targaryens?
Yes.
Why would the Citadel want to prevent that? Okay, I get it from they want to prevent World War III standpoint, right? But World War III is already happening. Why would they seek to keep Targaryens in power? Don't the Citadels hate power?
They
hate
don't.
The Targaryens?
So if you guys go back to the last chapter of Feast of Crows, that's where we meet Marwyn.
Yeah.
And he's talking about how if Aemon Targaryen had made it back to the Citadel, they would have, the old gray mice would have wrung their hands about it, but they would have poisoned him, because if all this talk of Dany with dragons and her rising to power would have been too much. The world that the Maesters are building has no place for dragons. I might have a clip, but it might be a long clip. Let me see what I got here. But yeah, so what do you think of my idea?
I really like it. I mean, I poked some holes earlier, and I think it's almost a little bit of a stretch to say that okay, dragons were birthed and created, but now they make eggs.
Yep.
Right.
If it's a two new species, I don't know, man. I wasn't in the flesh pits.
I mean, we do learn about Mendelian genetics just by this guy who crossed peas together, right? So there
was also a monk.
Yeah, right. He was a monk who crossed peas together genetically, and
just like Septon Barth.
So that is a thing. Hybrid animals are a thing. We see ligers and we see.
There's a liger right down the street. Have you ever been to McCarthy's Animal Sanctuary? They have a liger.
No, I've never been to
Oh my
McCarthy's.
God, it's like so close.
Yeah?
It's closer than Lion Country Safari. It's in my neighborhood too.
I went to this place, I want to say Panther City or something like that. It's nice. Like some lady's house who No, I'm serious. She's got like 5 or 10 acres.
That's what this is.
And she's got big cats. She's got a ton of cats. It's a sanctuary for cats.
And it's not McCarthy's?
No, it's not McCarthy's.
Man, Florida's a weird place.
Yeah, lots of exotic animals here.
Yep. Yeah, we found McCarthy's because Kirsten and I went for a run in the neighborhood and heard a lion roar. Like, it is on, you're running through just a neighborhood and it's like 4, lots all, put together in a complex, but then it's like next to other houses. And they have something like 250 big cats or
Holy
something.
Crap.
Yeah. They have a liger, they have some tigers, they have Florida panthers, all sorts of stuff. It's really cool. I highly recommend it. Whenever anybody visits me from out of town, I take them. But yeah, so if I never thought, I just assumed that dragons always existed and they had this connection, and that was it.
That's kind of how I believed it.
If blood magic and sorcery, fire magic and blood magic, and these flesh pits are, were the reason that it happened, then the Valyrians themselves claim that dragons sprang forth as children of the 14 flames. Right? And they're able to bind them to themselves in ways that no one else ever could. And what does it say here?
I think the biggest one to me is the comment about the Valyrians not being
blood of other men.
Yeah. And I wholly subscribe to the fact that the Maesters could have mistaken fossils of wyverns for dragons. I mean, that's...
Yeah, and if you don't care, if you don't see the difference between them, but in the book it specifies that the only difference was that one breathed fire, and my immediate, flag went up, and I was like, well, if the only difference, the two differences are, one is tame to certain people and can breathe fire, and the others can't, then you wouldn't be able to tell any of that by the fossil record. Yeah. And if wyverns still exist in these wild places like Sithorios and the Basilisk Isles...
But I mean, dragons are much, much bigger than wyverns, right? Okay, so 30 feet is big,
but
right?
They say that the swamp one...
huge, right?
How big is 30 feet? I don't know.
30?
It's like a boat. You could have a 30-foot boat. You could have a 30-foot dragon and still ride it.
Yeah, but when I see Drogon, I think like
it doesn't
60 feet.
It doesn't specify how big. You guys can check this out. 285 in your
60 feet's kind of
in your rule book. The Shadow Wing, a nocturnal monster whose black scales and wings make him all but invisible until he descends out of the darkness to tear apart his prey. And they say that the swamp wyverns are 30 feet or longer, but it doesn't say how long. And we know that dragons, depending on where they live, in the dragon pit or in the wild, their size varies wildly. And so it seems like the wyvern sizes vary wildly as well. You've got the
we got monkey-sized ones.
Hunting. Can you imagine getting hunted by monkey-sized wyverns hunting you in packs of 100 and more?
Oh my God.
That's terrifying.
That's absolutely terrifying.
So
they're snapping their jaws at you. That's all I can think of right now.
Septim Barth's dragons, worms, and wyverns. He speculates that the blood mages of Valyria used wyvern stock brought over from Ashai to create dragons. Though blood mages were alleged to have experimented mightily with their unnatural arts, this claim is considered far-fetched by most maesters. Among them, a guy who wrote a book called Against the Unnatural, which seems like a critique piece of the, Septim Barth's unnatural.
So that's how I feel when you say there's no way Roose Bolton is a vampire. That doesn't make any sense. In a world where dragons exist, vampires, no fucking way.
Yeah.
Roose Bolton.
Against the Unnatural, yeah. Sounds like a direct critique of Maester's
spin-off series.
Yeah. Man.
Spin-off series, Buffy the Bolton Slayer.
This is it, man. And I was like, holy shit, did they... And, in the first book, in Game of Thrones book, we get Dany with that twisted little dragon abortion baby, And it's got scales and a tail and shit. Like, it's half a dragon. And we can blame... What's her name? What's her mage? Miramar's Door for doing some weird blood magic.
What's her magical dick?
Yeah, we can. But, I was like, oh my God, what did they do? Like, did they have like a torture cave and make that? And that's why some houses can do it and some can't. And why we must keep the bloodlines pure. Because, dude, nobody's making any more fucking dragon magic. So if the Targaryens die out, there's no more dragon babies.
Yeah, or even dilute the bloodline enough. Who says that there's going to be any genes left of the dragon? If you keep mating with human and human and human and human and human. So do you think it's possible that Dany's going to get it on with like Drogon or something? Or,
no, I think that we're too far out. I think that they're independent now. I think the dragons procreate on their own.
They're a species of their own.
Yeah. On the lineage page of the Targaryens, Aerion.
Let's get it on.
Yeah, Aerion Targaryen, the one that is Aegon the Conqueror's dad, married Valena Valerian. Okay. And the Valerians are an ancient and noble house from beyond the Doom as well, but they were also a lesser house. I would suggest that that's where the double X re-enters the bloodline. So I think probably in the Wayback Machine.
We going way back? Way back.
I think that Aerion Targaryen, the patriarch of our whole lineage page, chooses Valena Valerian because purposely. She is a dragon hatcher, because it is at that union that we get Meraxes and Vhagar hatched. They're the only two dragons to ever hatch on Dragonstone. Balerion the Black Dread came over with the family and was already there. And so I'm thinking that probably Valena Valerian is a double X, and that House Valerion, which is the sea snakes, they have like a little island in the north, that they're an ancient blood house as well. And so the two houses, Valerian and Targaryen, and then the third house, House Hightower, might have some sort of X's in it. Like it might have some ancient power as well. But anyway, that's the thought. If you guys have any more ideas, please email them to us. Westeros Wheneverly at the Gmails.
At thegmail.com, yeah. Or you can tweet us at Worry, W4RRI, or at Tana Ford.
Yeah.
You could also check out awesome Tana Ford drawings, Tana Ford designs.
On the Facebooks.
Man, it's good to be back.
It's nice.
Yeah, I like this. I miss this.
I know, dude.
I don't want to go back to working in the Englands. I want to.
You were there for a while.
6 weeks. Not that I don't like England. It was an okay place, but I'd rather be here.
The picture that I used tonight had you at what? King Arthur's place?
I was at let's see, it's Castle Tintagel, which was a castle that was destroyed, but I think the rumor is that King Arthur was born there.
Oh, cool.
I think is what the rumor was.
There's an awesome statue.
Yes, there's an awesome statue of King Arthur, and I took a great picture of myself in front of it, giving him a foam sword.
Yeah, that's great.
Giving my sword to King Arthur. That was a very funny one.
There's one where you've got them both, the two foam swords, upside down on the ground, and somebody was like, "Are those swords, or are those what Tyrion uses when he skis?"
Yeah, are those Tyrion's crutches?
This one, I want to leave you on this thought, Dave.
All right.
And we can also talk, crackpots if you want to. I don't know. We can touch on Mance Rhaegar. We should touch on that.
Mance Rhaegar?
Yeah. But here's the final thought about dragons. Ice Dragons, World Book, page 294. I invite you to...
Ice Dragons, Tana, did you see the goddamn HBO thing?
I mean, we're going to see some Ice Dragons. Here's what proof I could find.
They exist, ladies and gentlemen.
Either it's an old dead dragon.
Motherfucking ice dragons.
Or we've got a song of ice and fire. If fire makes fire dragons and you can create hybrids, did an other lay with a wyvern and end up with an ice dragon? I don't know, Dave, but here's the passage.
Or did other just take a fallen slain dragon and be like, bitch, you an ice dragon now.
You are alive again. Yep. So World Book 294. Check this stuff out yourself, guys. Of all the queer and fabulous denizens of the Shivering Sea, however...
You would like this passage.
Yeah. The greatest are the ice dragons. These colossal beasts, again, they mated beasts with whatever. So, notice how often a dragon is called a beast or a wyvern. Anyway,
What
these
else would they be
colossal
called?
beasts, many times larger than the dragons of Valyria, are said to be made of living ice, with eyes of pale blue crystal and vast translucent wings through which the moon and stars can be glimpsed as they wheel across the sky. Whereas the common dragons, if any dragon can truly be said to be common, breathe flame, ice dragons supposedly breathe cold, a chill so terrible that it can freeze a man solid in half a heartbeat. Sailors from 100 nations have glimpsed these beasts over the centuries, so mayhaps there's some truth behind the tales. Archmaester Margate has suggested that many of the legends of the North, freezing mists, ice ships, Cannibal Bay, and the like, can be explained as distorted reports of ice dragon activity. Though an amusing notion, and not without a certain elegance, this remains the purest conjecture. As ice dragons supposedly melt when slain, no actual proof of their existence has ever been found.
I mean, if they were an other, that would explain it, right?
Sure would.
You'd slay an other, they just kind of melt and disappear.
Yeah. So does dragon glass?
Grass.
Does obsidian work on them? We're gonna find out because it's called Winds of Winter and things are about to go down.
Shit's about to go down. Meet me
So,
at the mall. It's
That's my
going
dragon
down.
theory. That's my birth of dragons in a tortured
Oh my
flesh
god,
pit.
I just thought of a great parody.
What?
Meet me at the wall. It's going down. I got that horn. It's going down. I'm the king of the night. It's going down. All right, we have to stop.
Now my watch begins.
All men
Must drink.
must drink.
Let's do a little wrap up of Mance Rhaegar.
Okay.
You've never heard this theory?
No, I never heard this theory.
So I got into a Twitter conversation with people who really believe this, or at least they're like, you need to examine the evidence. It's compelling.
Okay.
Rhaegar Targaryen
Yeah.
did not die at the Ruby Ford. The rubies in his armor,
Yeah.
like the ruby that Melisandre has,
Yeah.
cast a glamour, so somebody else died in his place. He fled the battle to the north because he heard a prophecy that his son he'd meet his son up there. So when Mance Rhaegar meets Jon Snow, it's really Rhaegar Targaryen, his biological father in exile, with the ruby. There's red thread in his cape that's glamoring him, and he treats Jon as a father. And so this is the Mance Rhaegar thing. There might be more to it, but that's pretty much it. And there's so many holes in it. It sounds cool. And if you're interested, you should check it out. And I apologize to our Twitter fans who are totally explaining this to me in a very logical way.
And you don't remember any of it?
I mean, those are the big strokes. I can't get past the fact that he would not have left. Like, he just sacrificed his whole kingdom. He's not going to leave Lyanna. He doesn't know she's dead, right? So he's not just going to flee to the north. And then his kid.
Why? I mean,
he's going to just leave his kid forever and go live in the Night's Watch?
Well, no, he's not leaving his kid forever, right? You could argue that he's doing this for his son because he's going to meet his son in the north.
It's insane.
It is a little.
It's very crackpotty.
Crackpotty.
And I think
Mance Rhaegar.
The idea of talking crackpot theories delights me, but I can't get past I know it's all made up, but the logic behind this stuff, like, I can't get behind
in a world
Bruce being
where there are dragons. There is no fucking way that there are vampires as well.
Like, I can't with Bruce as a vampire. Like, I can't, guys. I just.
I don't know. I mean, he did die.
In the show, he died.
He dies.
Yeah, but in the show,
he does have sinister-ish pointy teeth.
There is a literary device called a shaggy dog. Google it or look it up on the Wikipedia.
It's a literary device?
It's a literary device where it's sort of like a red herring. So you make a lot of hay about nothing, and it's just this person gets built up just to die. And so there is one of our awesome Twitter fans totally believes that Shaggy Dog and Rickon are just
Shaggy
literal
dogs.
shaggy dogs. Like, they're gonna get killed pretty much how Rickon died. Like, with that same level of, like, who gives a shit.
Yeah.
So, but I think that George isn't gonna toy with us. I think, or rather, I think he is gonna toy with us. I think he's gonna try to make us care about Rickon and Shaggy Dog.
Well,
before he slaughters them.
They do that in the show, right? They bring him back for like half a season just to show up in Ramsay's arms.
Zigzag, man, just zigzag.
Oh my god, oh my god, just
zigzag. Well, and I'm trying to. One other people think that that what's his name, Arthur Dane is still alive, and he's really Barristan Selmy, or like.
There's so many theories about. Oh yeah, this person just didn't die.
Yeah.
This person's not dead.
Quentin Martell is not dead. Like we are in his point of view when that dragon lights him on fire and he sees his shield and his flesh go up in flames, and people are like, yeah, he just sees it and then suddenly he dies of third degree burns after 3 days convalescing. I'm like, yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah,
it was a furnace. It was an inferno to his face.
That's exactly what
happened. We were inside his body. At the Guadalajara talk that George just gave, he said that Arthur Dane is dead, and he said that what did he say? Not to believe everything in the World Book, and also that if he regretted anything.
It's giving people too much information.
it was not making Robb one of the point of view characters, because that seemed to telegraph to a lot of people that Robb was going to die, because we never got his point of view. And I was like, oh, I never even thought about it like that.
Did we really never get Robb?
We never. Yeah, he was never a point of view character.
His story was always told through Caitlin or
That's
John
right.
or something like that.
We only see him as his sisters and his family saw him. Yep. Although there is one crackpot theory that I'm really hoping
that Robb is still alive.
Yeah, that Greywind. No. That he's still alive through Greywind.
Through Greywind.
Yeah, because his last words at the Red Wedding are Greywind. And
don't they kill Greywind and they sew the wolf's head on
Merritt Frey, the alcoholic guy with the headaches that gets strung up by the Brotherhood Without Borders.
Yeah.
Merritt Frey says that they chopped off King Robb's head and his direwolf's head and sewed them together. But he says that his Lord Father sewed their head together, which obviously he wouldn't have sewed it himself. He means that somebody else did it.
Yeah.
But there are clues like that in how Merritt talks about it that suggest he wasn't there. He didn't see it. He's going off rumor. And so wouldn't a big hunting dog or, I don't know, a normal wolf that
look
somebody...
like a direwolf, maybe?
And so as propaganda to cover their tracks in case, because... in
case Greywind actually escaped and they don't want to seem like idiots. And
one of the Spicer guys, the Westerling, Reynold, maybe? Is Reynold the good one?
I don't remember.
Sybil Spicer and Rolf, the uncle, are the bad Westerlings. And then Jane...
Yeah, Gene Poole.
Yeah. Jane Westerling and Reynold Westerling are good. The kids are good. The parent and uncle are shitty.
Yeah.
But Reynold lets Greywind go, and then they say they feathered him with arrows and whatever, and we assume that he died. But Lady Guinevere had this theory from, I don't know, fucking 2003 or something. Like, I never know anything.
Yeah.
But I just discovered it, like, very recently, that King Robb wargs into Greywind. His last words, like John's last words, are ghost. His last words are Greywind. So he could be warging out. We get that whole chapter about a second life fit for a king. We also know that Reynold Westerling let Greywind loose, and we hear rumors that Greywind is dead. Now, Lady Gwyn is like, probably he's dead, and they sewed it on. But we can't take anything for granted with George. If you don't see the body yourself on page, then it didn't happen.
Or you see the body yourself on page,
and then zombie cat
magically comes back to life. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, Westeros Winneverly is back to life.
Back to life. All men must drink.
All men must drink. And also, by the way, we just have to say this because we are both completely enamored by this show.
Yep.
Go check out Westworld.
Oh, God. I just got into it today. I got through like 7 episodes while I was working on comics.
Yeah, go check it out. It's not... I don't think the lore goes as deep, obviously, as Mr. Martin's lore does, but man, is it a fantastic show.
It is a good show,
and it took
man.
our damn initials.
I know. We could do a crossover. Westeros wheneverly, Westworld wheneverly. Hey, it fits.
Westworld wheneverly.
But I don't know that I have
Western wheneverly.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of insight. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I got
a ton of crackpot theories on the Westworld Reddit.
Yeah. Well, maybe if we're bored someday and we're just doing so many podcasts, we can't think of any other podcasts to do.
Oh my god.
I've cut up the Citadel episode into 2.
What a first world problem. Hashtag. Oh my god. We're gonna have 2 episodes on this.
Yep. I'm gonna do one on House Hightower. You promised
because you've been telling people that we were gonna do it.
So there's one on the Citadel.
Okay.
And the history of Old Town.
Okay.
And also on House Hightower. And I do have audio clips for that, and I'll probably put together some Stump Dave. Although that's for our audience because you are historically really bad at Stump Dave.
Yes, very well. There's some points on the board still.
Oh yeah, that's true. So, you got 12 out of 15. Hey, you did good in that one.
No, I think that's a date.
Oh, damn it.
I think that's oh my god, that's almost a year ago.
Hey. Oh, and today is December 5th. And it is the 83rd, I think.
That's what you said earlier.
83rd anniversary. 3 and 3,
of the abolishment
86.
of Prohibition.
That's right.
So
this
all
year,
men
83
must drink.
Somebody else do the math. It was in 1933 on December 5th that the 18th Amendment was repealed. So Prohibition has ended. But I'll bend an elbow to that, my friend.
There we go.
Yeah, all men must drink.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Adios.